Welcome to the teachings of Christ Jesus in today's Holy Mass with Father Alphonsus. Be empowered in the words of him who seeks our elevation.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. When evening came, the disciples of Jesus went down to the sea, got into a boat, and started across the sea to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea rose because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near to the boat. They were frightened, but he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Glory to Jesus. The walking on the lake today was not done in order to show that Jesus had power. You know, we can count the number of opportunities that he would have had. Hello? We could meditate on the number of opportunities he would have had to be in that boat with them. You know, if he could walk on the lake, which is miraculous, then he could glide over space to meet the apostles in order for him to be in that boat that they were in. Are you with me? If anyone who can walk on the lake can also walk on the air. I hope you know there's no difference. Hello, are you with me? Good. So I'm trying to say that the walking on the lake today was not as a result of Jesus Christ wanting to show that he had power. Jesus was performing another work. Hello. How many of you have sailed on the sea before? How many of you have crossed a river with a canoe or a boat before? For the first time, when you are in a river, there is land everywhere, yet that river will look so dreadful to you. Your heart will almost want to pull out through your mouth in fear. And yet you have land everywhere. Only just one small pathway is water, isn't it? And you are so afraid. Imagine it then if you are sailing on the sea, where you look north, you don't see tree. You don't see land. You look south, you don't see land. You look left, you don't see land. The only thing you see is the sky, and the sky is ending in front of you inside water. Ending behind you everywhere. I don't know. If you are afraid because of small river that is just a stream crossing through land, you look here land, here land, everywhere land. How much more you are in that sea? Even if it is calm, it will take you several hours for your heart to come down. Just like it was when I climbed the plane for the first time. Every single minute was heart attack. You know, I have not traveled that long on a boat. I have only used canoe to cross one river that people swim across. And that's still the threat that I have about river till tomorrow. So you now talk about the real journey. You see, the sea is very wide. Calm on top, oh God, but there is a world under. I've always told you this. There is a whole world under. You know, and I can tell you for free that it is under the waters that the devil built his base. His earthly base, his base of operation is in the water. That's the reason why the demons that rule the world most, the demons that have the courage and the capacity to take over churches, are marine spirits. Not necessarily witchcraft spirits. All those are small. Marine spirits are the ones in charge of preserving the world in sin. Let's just preserve the word in sin, so that any time they want to act, there will be no one amongst men who can resist them. So always be watchful. Look at your child's eye very well, whether there are some associations of marine spirits, because nowadays father can be clean, mother can be clean, a child is totally controlled by a marine spirit, and you cannot count them. The animals in the sea are more than the animals on earth, because in the first place, it's important to know that the sea covers over 78% of the landmass of the earth. You should know what that means. You should know what that means. So if Jesus was walking on the lake, you should thank God that if you are in Jesus Christ, no matter the powers, didn't you hear that it is under that place you have Leviathan? And the monster Rahab is in the sea. So when geologists and oceanographers are telling you that tempest is roving, it may be one monster that shifted its tail underneath the crust, just one sweep, and then that sweep will cause a mayhem on the surface that will spiral into land. Human beings that were given control over everything. Your God says that He is the owner of the earth and its fullness, the world and all it contains. He didn't end there. He says He Himself sets it upon the seas. On the waters, He also makes His authority felt. Jesus was performing that act, telling you that there is nothing on land or anything on the sea or inside the sea that can compete with the glory that He has given you. Christians, can you stop being afraid for a moment? So that the next time you find yourself riding on the sea, when people are saying Jesus power, superpower, Jesus power, superpower, you should not be part of those who now say, Mommy, what that power? No, you should not be part of them. On the sea, He made it firm, your God. Mommy, water power, powerless power. If you read the Acts of the Apostles, you would see what the monsters of the sea did to the convoy that was moving St. Paul to Rome. And St. Paul said, now look, this journey will be unto death. This journey will be what? Unto death. No, there will be no survival. What's going to happen here? The sea was ready to swallow St. Paul because St. Paul has caused mayhem in various lands where these marine spirits have taken control over. And then St. Paul was now going to Rome. Whatever makes for the conversion of Rome, the hand of Satan has been destroyed because Rome embodied the authority of demonic slavery and of demonic hegemony at that period in the world, being the world superpower and the power that was ruling that superpower. You know, Jesus came from Israel. Israel was a vassal state under Rome. Israel was a slave state under Rome. So for St. Paul to be going to Rome, and they had seen, in fact, there were some blacksmiths that usually carved the images of Diana, the images of Diana that was being worshipped in Ephesus. Diana was the goddess that took charge of the Ephesians. Go and see what St. Paul did in Ephesus. The word of God grew mightily in that land, and they sought to kill him. There was confusion. They said somebody is coming to overthrow the god Diana, the goddess Diana, and so on and so forth. They were afraid. And the blacksmiths, who were afraid because they were looking at their business, knowing that if St. Paul succeeds, they will no longer be able to carve the image of Diana anymore. Maybe it's the image of Diana will not be carved anymore. So they would have lost their trade. And eventually, They started giving examples. They were calling the various nations in Asia Minor that St. Paul has dislodged. They are demonic beings. They were calling the names and said he has come here again to want to do the same. So going to Rome was a big one for Satan. And he said, you are going to pass through my throat to go to Rome. You should know what that means. Hi. St. Paul saw it and told them this journey will lead to death. And they stubbornly embarked on the journey. But St. Paul had to do what I have been told to tell Christians to start doing now. Become the altar. Become the altar. There are two kinds of altars. You know, you can have the altar of Egypt, the altar of Sodom and Gomorrah. An altar is the portal that opens up your allegiance to a particular spirit. It is through an altar that you serve. It is an altar that defines your priesthood. And your priesthood can be either that of light or that of darkness. I hope you know today, if you bring an Ifa priest and stand him here, and you bring a Catholic priest and stand him here, of course, you already know the answer. You will be at home with the fine boy Reverend Father, but you'll be shaking at the Ifa priest. If they say you must receive a course today, and they will not say you should choose who should curse you, you say the Reverend Father should curse you, because you will be afraid of the curse of the Ifa priest that probably can start functioning right now in your life. But out of the Catholic priest, you may likely say, well, Father, not get level. That is where our Christianity has gotten. The reason why you cannot tie rosary on your blossoming mango fruits is precisely the very fact that we believe that Christianity does not have power. And so you can find a Christian who ties red and white cloth on the blossoming mango tree, and it stays intact. Nobody tampers with it. Nobody touches it. But thank God for St. Paul. Develop yourself as an altar. The Lord says, leave vengeance for me. When God is going to act, even the devil himself will quake in his foot. But the devil should first of all be afraid of you because you are God's child. They say resist the devil and he will flee. But where does that resistance start from? What does it mean, resisting? What does it mean to resist? I give you an example of resist, so that we will have a better perspective of resistance. Resistance is not by praying. Resistance is not by speaking in tongues. Resistance is not by fasting. Resistance is not all those. No. I want to give you a little example of resistance so that we would understand. When Vivian Ogu, the 14-year-old girl, was to be raped somewhere around the Babagun there, yeah, you eventually have the Vivian Ogu Center. That place was a forest. That's when this thing happened. Forest. Imagine there was nobody to defend her. They took her from her parents, so which means parental guidance was useless at that point in time. Because their parents were alive, were there when they took her. They drove, and I'm sure they passed through checkpoints. So the security apparatus of the states, she also knew, would not defend her. They came to a forest. And let me tell you something. Why would they choose that child? Why would they carry two of the children far? because her case was a special case. This case was not a regular kidnapping. Are you with me? This case was orchestrated by Satan himself. One of the things that we are not even talking about in this whole event of Vivian Ogu. People usually come to steal and they do the raping they want to do in the house there. Yes or no? So why were they wanting to take the child out? When thieves come to the house, they do what they want to do. For them to have been, it was more difficult to take the two girls away from their parents than to rape the girls in the house. I hope you understand that. More difficult. Because they can carry all the people in the house, lock in a room, or just use one gun to face them, while the other person is doing the raping. That's very easy. That was easy. But Vivian Ogu's case was planned. It is more difficult, listen carefully, to carry two children away from their parents than to just do the work there. Because to carry two able-bodied girls with weight from their parents meant that they had lots of collaterals, that if they were to pursue them, they won't be able to run with them. You can run with yourself, but to be carrying another person who does not even want you to carry him or her will be difficult for you to run with such person. So that should tell you Vivian Ogu's case was planned. It was a target. Because the little 14-year-old girl in St. Paul Catholic Church, while she was alive, had grown in holiness, absolute holiness, and was now pioneering other children into holiness. Girls of their age, of her age, had already been deflowered many times. Many of them from age 9 already know what many women at age 40 do not know about. I'm telling you this. Sexually. So Vivian Ogu was the target. But thank God, because we could not ascertain the eventual plan of Satan for that child. We could not ascertain. Death was the easiest thing that had happened to that child. Death was a blessing that happened to that child. I have heard some people saying that if she had agreed, she would have still be alive today. Do you know what that means? She would have been the signboard of the desecration of the glory of God. The person that boasted to say children should be like St. Mara Goretti, children should be like St. Lucy, Agnes, Cecilia, all those holy virgins who paid with their blood. She would have been the physical sign of the failure of the reason for holiness. God. You don't know what the devil planned. The death of that girl and her heroic act is one of the reasons why I have the boldness to tell youth today to keep themselves clean. Because I knew the meaning of the war that girl fought. You see, that girl fought a war. You think that it was just a resistance. She didn't have what it took to resist. Because she was 14 years old, dealing with 4 solid men who were able to carry her away from her place. The parents could not pursue. The whole area could not pursue. So you can see how mighty these 4 men were. With drugs and everything. Now, in a forest where there is no defense, a 14-year-old girl was able to resist. And they couldn't penetrate her. It was the reason for killing her. The anger, the annoyance, the disbelief. What is about this? Even one man can bring that girl down ordinarily. But angels were on guard. Everybody will die. Everybody will die. At that point in time, her death was Jesus' death. Her blood was going to join Jesus' blood to fight on behalf of those who have decided to elevate the glory of God. You are the altar. You are the altar. So when you see a 6-year-old misbehaving, a 7-year-old misbehaving, not talk of a 9-year-old or 11-year-old or an 18-year-old and all that, you are saying, na small pikin still be. You yourself are a child for saying that. You yourself are a child. Children are under manipulation, no resistance anywhere. Any foolish thing, they are found in it. Pray, they cannot pray. Concentrate, they cannot concentrate. In the church, they don't even know the meaning of seriousness. They cannot even compose themselves. We are talking about children. It's even more in adults. A 14-year-old stood her ground. 4 men laden with drugs, giving them power. Because before they go for such missions, they take hard drugs. So they will be more powerful than their regular self. Far more powerful. A little girl resisted them. So the resistance started from her. Heaven saw that the baby resisted, and heaven had to support. You are the altar, you and I. So when you are on the sea, remember this. Remember. St. Paul was the portal of the presence of God. St. Paul himself made himself an altar. He told himself, yes, this is the vision. The vision is that all of us will die. But for those of you who usually dream, you should take a cue from this. Because dreams also are visions. The fact that you dream about your death should make you, first of all, go and celebrate. Go and eat better fried rice. If that's the best food you like. Eat it first of all. After eating, come down and say you have failed. Now let us go into battle. You fold your sleeves. Do you know why you saw it in the first place? Seeing it by some people will see that they died, and then everybody around them will just die at the same time because of their fear. When they see you, when they are telling you the event, they are shaking. What is wrong? What is wrong? If you dream about your death, it is the first stage of victory. How were you able to see what they were planning? Do you know how distant the place they are planning it is? Do you know how secret the den where they were planning it is? Where you yourself cannot go with your leg. They brought it to you while you were sleeping. You do not consider that as mighty? You have only just seen what they have planned, and yet you did not travel. In fact, you were not even awake. You were not even active. You were sleeping. And the plan that they invested, you know the investment they did to make sure that plan is concealed, the deepest unimaginable part of the sea, no network can get there. And yet, you were sleeping. They just carried everything. They came to give you a soul while you were sleeping. And you consider that something you should be afraid of. You should kill a cow for such a thing. Oh, the much knowledge that we are meant to have victory in this world, and we quake under useless powers. And what scatters my head most is to imagine that Catholics who happen to have small winch will be boasting of such dirty power instead of seeking for deliverance. And even those who are not witches, by your behavior, by our spirits, we carry out tasks and purposes that align with the identification of actions that are defined in demonic terms. Come on. You are the altar. St. Paul reminded himself, as long as I am here, I cannot die. So what he did was to use himself as coverage. So when the tempest eventually started, what he now did was to transfer the confidence in him onto the men and told them that, look, this thing was meant to be unto death, but there is something that's going to happen. Not even a wood in this ship will survive, but all of you will survive. Think about it. Wood, the ship itself, not one part of it will survive, but all of you will survive. Because the Lord has made it firm in the seas. On the waters, he has planted his foundation. Today, Jesus walked on the lake. These were the works he was doing. So no marine power, no marine authority will have superintendence over you, whether you are on top of that place or not. You look, every family every family has contract with the marine world. It was when Christianity came that they now started removing us small from all those. People started throwing away their pots and all that. We are still very, very close to the covenants that were made by our parents. Be conscious of it. You who are parents, when you see your child behaving anyhow, don't say, and this child is anyhow. This child, you don't know what you are saying. Go and fight the root. Even you yourself, you can still be possessed as a parent. And it's because of you, because you have not purified yourself, that your child is suffering. Fight, war. The Lord has given you victory. He walked on the lake, and there was tempest in the lake. You see, he manifested what David said a long time ago. The revelation that was made to the master. He says, sit on my right until I put your enemies under your foot. That is where they have always been. Jesus is not the only one that is meant to enjoy that. He says, as many who believe in me, as many who accept me, they have become sons and daughters of the Most High, born not of the things of the flesh, but of the Spirit. So we are to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. Do not ever forget this, not for 1 second, that when demons who asked Jesus Christ, they knew what they were doing. Demons who asked Jesus Christ, please don't cast us into the wasteland, cast us into the heads of pigs. Jesus already knew where they were going. Why did they not say, cast us into the waters? If they have said that, Jesus would have, they would have killed themselves, cast you into the water. Because Jesus knows that is their headquarters. So say, cast us into heads of pigs. Because Jesus cannot use his freedom to give them more power. Cast them into heads of pigs. They entered pigs first. Why did the pigs not charge into the forest? Why did the pigs not charge into the forest? I ask you, was it those pigs that will never enter water, that entered water that day by their own common sense? Was it not the spirits that said, cast us into the pigs, that eventually led the pigs into the water? Why did they choose water? So anywhere you see water, turn it into the fountain of baptism. Anywhere you go, you are crossing a river, turn the whole river into the fountain of baptism. If you are on the plane and you discover that you are going across the sea, down there, turn the entire water. That is a bowl of fount for baptism. Become an altar anywhere you find yourself. And know assuredly that the Lord has given you victory over every marine spirit. Look, there are many mariners looking at me. Some are struggling to repent. Some are resistant. Congratulations. But don't come out. Hide by every means. Hide. Hide.
Please like, share, and if you haven't, hit the subscribe button and join us for daily reflections.